Kenshi is an autistic little kid who is bullied by everyone for his weird habits. But one day, he gets summoned to another world where all girls want to have his children. The show starts with the coronation ceremony of the new queen of the Shirayu Empire. A huge crowd is gathered at an island to watch the coronation ceremony. So the Empire set up extreme security measures, which includes most of their elite Seikijin pilots. The Seikijin are mecha-type humanoid robots which are the best weapons of this world. Aside from the elite female Seikishis, there are some male Seikishis deployed too. To learn more about Seikijin, we need to learn about the world of Geminar first. The world of Geminar is filled with special energy called Ahu, which can only be absorbed by Seikijin. The pilots who wield these Seikijin are called Seikishi, and they can bear the burden of being close to Ahu energy in the cockpit of the Seikijin. Most of the Seikishi are females, with only a few being males, thus making male Seikishis a very rare commodity. Back to the coronation ceremony. The new queen of the Shirayu Empire is a young girl named Lashara, who is naturally the next in line after her father died. She walks up to the stage alongside her female Seikishi guards who are nearby to protect her. Lashara heads to the stage where the officials of the empire crown her with the title of queen. While the ceremony is going on, a few shady-looking characters are also present amongst the crowd as they tell each other about their assassination target, which is none other than Lashara, the new queen. After the coronation ceremony is completed, Lashara heads back to the school in the Holy Land as she is still a young girl. She travels on the flying island, which is extremely secure as there are two Seikishis with her to protect her aside from normal guards as well. Later, Lashara is accompanied by her nanny Maya, and one of the professors at school who light alongside her escort and guard Chaya, who is always there to protect her by her side. Maya takes Lashara to the ancient Seikijin that was excavated from the ruins and is teaching her about it, while Ulight gives his own opinions as well. Meanwhile, the assassination group is also ready to assassinate Lashara as they inform Kenshi about her location. As for why Kenshi is doing this, he is promised to be sent back to his world after he has completed his assassination task. Kenshi pilots his Seikijin and flies towards the floating island. His sudden appearance on the island causes the alarms to go on as Chaya immediately heads to equip her Seikijin and fight off against the intruders. While Chaya is busy fighting with Kenshi, Dagmire, one of the other assassins, is also there to assassinate Lashara in disguise. However, he is intercepted by Wahanli, who knew something like that would happen as Lashara had ordered her to prepare a second Seikijin on the island as well. Dagmire is irritated that their plan failed and is about to retreat, but his Seikijin gets damaged. Fortunately, a black Seikijin comes to rescue him, which is piloted by a mysterious girl named Doll. While Dagmire and Doll manage to escape, Kenshi is stuck in a fight with Chaya, and to make matters worse, Wahanli also comes to aid Chaya, which puts him at a disadvantage. This causes Kenshi to use a self-destructive move which causes him to escape both of them as he heads towards the inner side of the floating island to assassinate Lashara with his own hand. However, Lashara doesn't seem to be afraid of him and even tries to recruit him, but Kenshi is bent on killing her. Chaya intercepts him once again and pins him down, only to realize that he is a male, which shocks her. She plans to kill him, but Lashara doesn't let her and instead asks her to take him away for questioning. The following morning, Kenshi wakes up in a cage as Chaya informs him that he will be here until the princess decides what to do with him. Meanwhile, Lashara asks Wahanli about the damages, but she assures her that her Seikijin is fine and Chaya's Seikijin will be repaired soon. Later, Chiaya's sister Mixaya arrives as well, and she learns about Kenshi from Lashara. She is quite interested in him, so she sneaks at night to cuddle with him. Kenshi wakes up in the middle of the night only to realize that he is in Mixaya's arms and is embarrassed. Chaya arrives there as well, scolds her sister, and takes her away. Kenshi, who was set as bait for the assassination group, finally comes to fruition as he is rescued by Doll, who takes him away. At the base, Dagmire, who is still under disguise, lashes at him for failing to do his mission and threatens to dispose of him as he finds a tracker on him. But Kenshi runs away from him and is rescued by another mysterious Seikijin, whose pilot turns out to be yet another beauty named Aura. She takes him back to the flying island where Chaya stops her, but she tells him that as a member of Junrai Guards, she can't go back and that she needs to talk to Lashara. Lashara also comes out and notices that Kenshi is very sick, which turns out to be a rare disease. If it is not cured in 6 to 8 hours, Kenshi will die from high fever. The only cure is a rare herb that can be found in the forests below them. So Aura and Mixaya both decide to head out to find the herb. But what they don't realize is that it's also a bait set up by Dagmire, who has placed Doll at the place where the herb is. Doll sneak attacks Aura, who is taken off guard. Meanwhile, this is all going on, Dagmire takes all the remaining forces to attack Lashara for one last time. However, he didn't expect Lashara to already have prepared for this sudden attack and suffer a bit at their hands. Wahanli, who has designed a machine gun, uses that to hold back Dagmire as her own Seikijin is being used by Chai. Meanwhile, back to Aura, she tries to run away from Doll but she doesn't let her give any chance, so she has no option but to use her field attack which allows her to escape but at a heavy cost. She is disappointed that she wasn't able to find the herbs, but fortunately, Mixia has found them on her behalf and even rescues her and takes her back to the flying island. Dagmire, who is still struggling against Wahanli, realizes that Doll failed to hold back Aura and Mixia and decides to retreat. Later, Kenshi is given the medicine which cures him, but he is still a bit sick, so he is left to have some rest. After a while, he recovers as the girls check up on him. He thanks everyone for saving him as they leave him alone to have more rest. The following day, the flying island is close to reaching the Holy Land, so Lashara has to decide what to do with Kenshi. She decides to make him her male attendant and also hide the fact that he is from another world and that he tried to assassinate her. She then asks Maya to get him ready and turn him into a decent human. After Kenshi has washed himself and changed clothes, he looks much better now as Lashara asks him to follow her if he wants to go with her to the Holy Land. At first, Kenshi hesitates, but he soon makes up his mind and walks towards her and heads with her to the Holy Land. After reaching the Holy Land, the flying islands cannot operate as it's outside the Sea of Ina, so the ancient Seikijin is carried by Ulight manually to the school. Meanwhile, Lashara takes Kenshi and Chiaya with her to the school where most of the students are girls, so Kenshi attracts a lot of attention. After arriving at the school, Lashara is greeted by Dagmire, who is surprisingly also a student here. Seeing Dagmire makes Chiaya blush as she has a crush on him. Kenshi, who is surprisingly not that thick-headed, recognizes this and teases her, which makes Chiaya very angry at him. Meanwhile, in the student council room, the current president Lithia, who is also the daughter of the head pope, is a bit stumped after seeing Lashara at the academy, as with her and Maria, who is the princess of Havonia, things will get a lot noisy. Back to Lashara, she heads to the principal's office where she finds that Maria is also there. As soon as their gazes meet each other, they start to bicker, which leads to a competition between them as they ask Kenshi as to whose skirt is better. Kenshi doesn't know which side to choose, so Maria's attendant Yukine also decides to step in as she shows her skirt as well in a shy manner. Kenshi immediately chooses her skirt over both Lashara and Maria, which causes them to be shocked. Later, Lashara, who promised Kenshi that she wouldn't be angry even if he chose Maria, is now all sluggish because he chose Yukine. To take her revenge, she decides to tease Kenshi that he might get to marry Yukine in the future, which surprises Kenshi as he learns about the fact how male Seikishis are treated like breeding studs. While Kenshi is still having a hard time coping with this, Wahanli comes up to them and asks Chiaya to act as a witness to her duel. Apparently, in the school, if a duel happens between two students, they need another student to act as a witness to see who won it or who lost it. This time, Wahanli was challenged by a Ronin Seikishi who wanted to test her strength against a Seikishi who was going to become an official one in a few days. While they both are getting into their respective moving armor, which is used for training, Mixia comes to watch the duel as well alongside Ulai. Just like Ultai, Mixia is also a teacher here at the school and advises Lashara to call her one, but she waves it off for Kenshi and instead asks him to call her big sister. Back to the duel. Wahanli wins the duel by using an extremely beautiful clutch technique. During the entire duel, Mixia was asking questions to Kenshi, who surprisingly answered most of them right. After the duel, Lashara takes Kenshi to her dorm at the school where Chiaya locks him in his room and asks him to not go jumping around like a monkey as the school isn't his backyard. But after Chiaya leaves, Kenshi jumps from the window and heads into the forest to hunt for food and gather materials. He isn't doing this because he is hungry, rather it's just one of his hobbies. But he is discovered by two men who start chasing him, and just when he is about to engage in a fight with them, Aura comes out of nowhere and stops them. Both men immediately greet Aura as the princess, which shocks Kenshi, so she explains to him that she is the princess of Shurifan. She asks Kenshi why he is here and he explains it to her, which makes her curious, so she checks her pouch of materials and finds an extremely rare mushroom which is considered a royal delicacy in their kingdom. Aura is shocked and seeing her reaction, Kenshi gives it to her as a gift for saving his life. After the two men leave, Aura is talking to Kenshi when he mentions male Seikishis marrying multiple women and stuff like that. Aura tells him that as long as it helps in avoiding conflict, she is okay with it. As Kenshi is leaving the forest, he finds Ulite unconscious in the jungle, so he gives him herbal soup to heal him. But that knocks him out even deeper, so he takes him to the academy where he gets disrespected by Dagmire for acting out of his bounds as he is just a male servant. Kenshi is feeling down as he is walking through the school when he finds Yukine and sits by her. She consoles him and asks him about his feelings, so he tells her about the entire male Seikishi scenario. She only gives him a pat on his head, which reminds Kenshi that Chiaya said that Yukine is also one of the potential marriage partners, which makes him blush. But just then, he is discovered by Chiaya, who gives him an earful of nagging as he is taken back to the dorm. Later, he heads to meet with Ulite to ask him if he is okay, and surprisingly the herbal soup that he made for him worked as he is full of energy. Kenshi talks to Ulight about male Seikishis as well, to which Ulight can only tell him that it's the customs of this world and that he might get used to it one day. The following day, Chaya and Wahanli are officially appointed as Seikishi in front of the ancient Seikijin. The ceremony is just them wearing cat ears, which is a bit weird for Kenshi, who came from another world. One day, Kenshi comes back to the dorm after scavenging some fish and herbs. Later, he grills them in the courtyard while Chaya practices nearby him. Lashara is watching them from the window of her room as her mind starts cooking up a scheme. She summons Kenshi to her room where she tells him that he can't keep on living on her expenses and that he needs to earn his own money if he wants to be able to feed himself. But Kenshi tells her that he doesn't need any money to buy food, as he can just go to the forest and hunt some there. Lashara is baffled by his response, so she changes her strategy and asks him how would he earn money if he went back to his world, so he should start doing some work so he can get experience. Kenshi finally agrees with her and asks her to get him a job. Lashara pulls some strings and gets a job for him. She then has him ready and asks him to go to the dormitory headroom. Kenshi is on his way there when he is spotted by the students, who are mostly girls. The girls look at him as if he's a sheep amongst hungry wolves. Their eyes frighten him, so Kenshi immediately escapes and heads to the dormitory head office, where he finds the principal, who is also a part-time head of the dorms. She tells him about his job, which is to take care of upperclassmen dorms, but Kenshi is afraid as all the girls are like hungry wolves, but the principal ensures that nothing bad will happen to him. She takes Kenshi to the underground area where he meets with the staff head Hana, who takes him to an even more underground area to showcase his work. She hands him to Jazzy, who didn't expect much from him as he is still a child, but is shocked when Kenshi completes all the tasks in just a few minutes. She realizes that she has struck gold and decides to use him to his fullest potential. Thus starts the non-ending work of Kenshi as he starts from one job to another as he keeps on going. Later, he is heading towards another job when he stumbles into Aura, who is surprised to see him working, as he shouldn't be doing any work as he is a personal servant of Lashara, but Kenshi doesn't know how things work, so he was taken advantage of by Lashara. Lashara was heading to find his staff, so instead, she asked him for help as she took him to a cliff where a girl named Lapis was standing. Someone threw her handkerchief below, so Kenshi helped her retrieve it. Lapis thanks Kenshi for helping her, and after receiving her thanks, he leaves and heads to the cooking department where the staff are making lunch boxes for students. His craftsmanship impresses the head chef, so he asks him to hand these 2 lunch boxes to the people who specifically requested for him. Kenshi delivers the boxes to the student council room where he finds Aura and Lithia together. Lithia teases Kenshi by calling him a wild dog as he is too full of energy and smiles. But this offends Aura, who thinks that he is more of a wild wolf as he is super strong. Thus they both agree that he is a wild beast after all. Kenshi leaves after delivering the box and is done with his day's work. Lashara, who is looking at his report, laughs like a maniac as he made huge amounts of bucks for her without her even doing anything. The principal is also impressed by Kenshi, so she assigns him to supervise all the chores and stuff. Later, Kenshi is captured by Mixaya, who was advised by Lashara to learn how to do massage. Mixaya goes overboard and ends up turning him into a massage machine, which causes the entire academy to fall into chaos. However, this also causes Aura and a lot of girls who were abused by this massage machine to turn up against Mixaya, who runs towards Kenshi to ask him to save her. But Kenshi is also on the girls' target list, so they chase after them, wreaking havoc. Wahanli was using her 4-legged contraption, which doesn't run on Ahu but steam technology, which gets potted by Dagmire, who thinks of an idea to overturn the capital. The following day, the principal calls everyone involved in her office and asks them to participate in repairing all the damages, and to help them she will grant them 50 staff members, and appoints Kenshi as the advisor. One day, Lashara discovers that there are a lot of holes in the flying ship and asks Chaya if she knows anything is going on. Lashara suspects it's those little ferrets that are digging the holes, but Chaya thinks of something and tells Lashara that it might be the work of a big ferret. Later at night, Chaya is overlooking the flying island to see any disturbances, and just like how she suspected, the culprit is indeed Kenshi, who has been digging holes to search for something. She captures him and takes him to Lashara, where he reveals that he was searching for crystals underground. Lashara doesn't nag him and instead asks him if there is any particular reason he was searching the crystals for. Kenshi answers that this reminds him of his big sister's crystal spaceship. This shocks Lashara as she asks him by spaceship, which means those big aircraft that can be used for interstellar travel. Seeing Kenshi affirming her question, she becomes curious and asks him if everyone owns a spaceship in his world, but Kenshi answers that probably not, as he has only seen his sister own it and no one. This makes Lashara even more curious, as most of the people who came from other worlds didn't have this sort of thing on their planet. They would at most have a rocket landing on the moon or something. While Lashara is talking to him about stuff, Chiaya notices the pendant on his neck and grabs it to check it but ends up breaking the chain, which causes Kenshi to start crying, so she promises him that she will fix it. The following day, she takes the pendant to different craftsmen, but no one can fix it as it's very advanced and complex for them. Even Ulight, who is very knowledgeable, isn't able to give her any solution, so she tries the last method, which is to ask Maria, which also leaves her disappointed. However, she suggests she tie it with a custom string that she can weave on her own. Back in her country, people used it to represent their feelings to each other. She hands him a guide and some equipment to practice so she can learn. Later at night, Kenshi is doing his usual activities when he spots an intruder and chases after them, but the intruder is too cunning and uses a decoy to escape. Kenshi is still searching for them when he stumbles into Mixaya, who takes him back to the dorm as she tells him that he needs a bath. Meanwhile, the intruder was Dagmayr's right-hand woman Amura, but Dagmayr helped her too. After stealing the files of the four-legged contraption, he sends them to his uncle Ulight, who is the younger brother of his father Babylon. Ultai is talking to Babylon, who is now the chancellor of the Shidoryu Empire, as Lashara isn't able to govern yet. He is disappointed that Lashara gave up the sovereignty this easily, as Babylon controls the entire government now. Aside from the documents, they also talk about Kenshi and his potential, but Babylon tells him that Dagmayr has chosen his way already, so he can't make him stop. On the other hand, Lashara reports this incident to the principal, who promises to them that she will start looking into this matter. She asks everyone to leave except for Lashara, whom she asks about Kenshi's not getting his complete salary and as well as manipulating him into working a job even though he is her servant. Lashara starts to blab as she gaslights the principal, but she is far too young, so the principal ends the discussion by admitting Kenshi into the academy as he still needs proper education. Lashara can't disagree with it, so she follows the principal's advice. Later, she gives proper instructions to Kenshi that he must stay away from Maria as she will be his classmate. She also informs him about how nobility and common people work and has him dismissed. The following day, Kenshi heads to the school with Lashara and Chiaya, but midway, Lapis takes Kenshi away as she was assigned to be his guide. Lapis is giving Kenshi a tour of the school when suddenly a bunch of upperclassmen asks Lapis what are two underclassmen doing here at their section, but after seeing that it's Kenshi who is with her, they instantly forget about her and start fawning over Kenshi. Lapis is surprised by their behavior and is curious why all upperclassmen are so fond of her. Kenshi can't just tell her of the body massage incident and leave soon. It's time for class to start, so he heads to his class where the teacher introduces him to the student. Afterward, she asks the girls to head for their test while the male students are given time for self-study. Kenshi finds Maria at the back of the class and greets her as she leaves for the test too. After greeting him back, although most of the male students aren't fond of him, he finds a good friend, Ceres, who is willing to talk to him. After self-study is over, Kenshi and others head to a class where they evaluate different brides, and surprisingly Kenshi's evaluation is on par with the teacher's. After this class is the swordsmanship class, where the teacher is none other than Mixaya. She asks Kenshi to come on the stage before anyone and practice with her, but Kenshi doesn't even move yet blocks all of her attacks. Mixaya excuses Kenhai as she can't teach him as he is probably already at master level. However, the other male students can't judge his level, so they decide to bully him but end up getting exhausted when they can't even land a single hit on Kenshi. Maria, who is watching him, can conclude that he was the Seikishi who attacked Lashara on that night, but his skill impresses to the level that she wants to recruit him. She asks Yukine if she likes him, and receiving an affirmative answer, she decides to rope Kenshin in. Later, at night, Chiaya finally fixes Kenshin's pendant and gives it back to him. However, she accidentally uses the red string, which symbolizes love and fate. One day, the student council meeting happens in which they decide to admit Kenshi into the student council for some odd tasks. All the students vote in agreement, which includes Maria, Lashara, Aura, and other royalties and nobilities as well. Later at night, Lashara informs Kenshi about it and asks him to take care of himself and follow the orders of the student council, as the next event is going to all the big shots of the world. After explaining some things, she warns him about Maria and asks him to stay cautious as she has been very suspicious lately. After hearing the word sus, Kenshi wants to laugh as it reminds him of the Among Us meme from his world. Later, Kenshi heads to Lithia's office, where she is still mad at him for what he did in that massage accident, and only calms down after Kenshi allows her to keep calling him a wild beast. After briefing Kenshi about the student council stuff, she officially accepts him as a member and dismisses him. Kenshi then heads outside where he meets Ulight, who is chilling on a pool chair under an umbrella. He calls this sunbathing, which confuses Kenshi as there is no sunlight on him. So Ulight points towards the pool in front of him where all the girls are swimming, which makes Kenshi understand that Ulight is a down bad man. Meanwhile, all the girls who were gossiping about Kenshi being admitted into the student council are confirmed by the rumors after Ulight mentions it in his conversation with Kenshi. This causes all the girls to surround him, but fortunately, He manages to escape and escapes into Lithia's office, where he asks her what's going on. Lithia informs him that normally all the girls are fighting against each other at such a big event like this, but right now they are all set on capturing him, thus this saved the teachers and the student council from a lot of headache. But Kenshi feels betrayed as he asks her if other male Seikishis can't do it instead of him, but she tells him that they are too precious and might get ruined by the girls, so he is the only one up to this task. Thus Kenshi's suffering starts as every day he gets chased by the girls who keep on upgrading their tactics to capture him. It's a usual day in Kenshi's life as he once again arrives at Lithia's office, where he finds that she is feeling a bit sick. Lapis brings her some tea, but Kenshi asks her to mix his special mix into it, which will help Lithia recover. Lithia, who normally hates medicine, can drink it and even fall asleep. There Kenshi also learns about baptism from Aura, which is a process done by the church that helps Seikishis recover Ahu at a much faster rate. They can also use Ahu to heal their Seikijin at a fast pace. Aura believes that Kenshin will soon be baptized as well. Later at night, he hears the same thing from Lashara too, who also comments that he needs to be baptized. The principal and the teachers have the same opinion, as Kenshi has helped them a lot in managing a lot of stuff. The following day, the female students decide to ask Wahanli to help them in capturing Kenshi by giving them her moving armors, which can be used here on the school grounds as well. Kenshi is surprised by their strategy, but he quickly realizes their weakness, which is the Ahu cords, and has them tied up to the woods in the forests. He didn't know that Wahanli has improved the models and that they can operate on steam for 30 minutes as well. Kenshi once again runs to save his life and is rescued by Yukine, who takes him to her room to hide him. There she serves him tea and remembers Maria's plan, but it is too embarrassing for her, so she falls unconscious, causing Kenshi to grab her. Just at that moment, Maria alongside other girls enters the room and finds Kenshin and Yukine in an awkward position. Maria pushes the responsibility on Kenshi and asks him to marry Yukine, but Lashara is against it. But Maria wants Kenshi to pay for his deeds, which Aura and the other girls agree to, as the massage incident gave them a lot of trouble as well. So in the end, they decide to hold a cooking competition, and the person who will win the competition will get the ownership of Kenshi. The competition isn't that simple, as they have to gather their ingredients. After everyone has finished gathering their ingredients, they cook the curry, and after taste testing, the winner is announced to be Kenshi himself, so he is given his freedom back. Time passes by as it's already time for summer vacation. Although the underclassmen aren't allowed to leave the academy grounds, the male Seikishis are allowed if given a certain application. Kenshi doesn't have a plan of going somewhere else, but his classmate Ceres wants to go somewhere, but he is secretive about it. Even though Kenshi doesn't have any plan to go where, Lashara is forced to go on a vacation by her Aunt Flora, who is also the mother of Maria, forces her to go and even have her bring Kenshi with her. When Lashara wanted to deny her request, she threatened to leak her embarrassing childhood pictures, so Lashara had no option but to agree to her request. Seeing her niece feeling so sad, Flora decides to fund the entire vacation for her, which makes her feel a bit better. For the summer vacation, Flora has them head to a health resort. Alongside Lashara's crew are Maria's crew, Aura's crew, and Lithia's crew as well. Dagmire is also accompanied by them, as he is the son of Babylon. In the resort, Kenshi spots Ceres, so he chases after him, only to learn that he is planning to escape the academy with his childhood lover, Heizuki. Aiding them is Kuradine, a mysterious woman whose motives are unknown. Kenshi, who was hiding, is discovered by Ceres, so he requests Kenshi to hide his secret. Kenshi promises that he won't tell anyone. Later, Kuradine heads to a room where a bunch of evil-looking fellas are gathered. She tells him that Ceres is in the bag and that she also found that there is another male Seikishi named Dagmire here, so she wants to capture both of them. At the resort, Flora finally arrives, but Kenshi is not present with Lashara and others, which disappoints her. Meanwhile, Kenshi is with Wahanli, who learned about Ceres, but Kenshi asks her to hide it for him. After she promises, he gives her a hug and leaves. While Wahanli is blushing from embarrassment, Flora arrives on the scene, which causes Wahanli to come down and greet her. Flora seems to have listened to their conversation but doesn't comment anything, and just tells Wahanli that she can finally understand why all the girls are crazy over Kenshi. Later at night, Kenshi enters the room where the huge pillow fight is going to happen soon. The organizer is Flora, who informs everyone that the winner will get a hug and kiss from her, but that doesn't motivate anyone. However, everyone is eager to solve their rivalries, so the fight commences and the winner ends up Kenshi, who is taken advantage of by Flora. After the fight is the dinner, as everyone fills up their stomachs. Meanwhile, Kenshi is enjoying his bath when Flora enters and wants to make him suffer a bit. But this allows Maria and Lashara to get back at this hateful woman as they turn Kenshi into a massage machine using Mixaya's technique. But this ends up turning into a nightmare for them instead. They expected Flora to beg for forgiveness, yet she ended up enjoying the whole process and gave them cursed memories. The following day, Kuradine attacks the resort with her team and they manage to capture Ceres and Dagmire. But instead of Ceres, who was tricked into being kidnapped, Dagmire chooses to go with them on his own accord as he wants to make a deal with Kiradine. Even though Kenshi and others tried to prevent them from taking Ceres and others away, they weren't able to do so, as there is no Seikijin here. The only thing that they had was Wahanli's four-legged contraption, which Kenshi used to defeat a lot of the bandits, but Kiradine, who is a Ronin Seikishi, still managed to escape and kidnap their targets. In the bandits' hideout, Dagmire meets with Kiradine, who falls in love with him as male Seikishis are rare. Dagmire uses this opportunity to sign a deal with her. Meanwhile, Kenshi and others plan to rescue Ceres and Dagmire, so they head to the bandits' hideout by using Wahanli's four-legged contraption. They manage to fool the bandits, which gives them enough time to take the compartments in which they have locked the hostages. Ceres, who is finally free, decides to use this opportunity to escape with Heizuki. Kenshi and others agree to cover up for him. Even Flora, who knows about it, decides to let it go. After the summer breaks end, the school resumes as normal, but Lashara is still feeling bored. She is thinking of a way to become rich quickly without doing anything when she remembers about the upcoming tournament and smiles. Meanwhile, Dagmire, who made a deal with Kiradine's bandit group, managed to infiltrate them into the Holy Land. Even Kiradine is surprised by this, even though she agreed to follow him that other day. Dagmire smiles as he has finally gotten most of his pawns set already. Later, the student council is having another meeting. This time it's about the upcoming tournament, and they vote on which format to choose this year. In the end, they all agree on Dagmire's idea, which is a preliminary stage tie format that sounds feasible to everyone. After the meeting, everyone immediately got on to work, including Lashara, who chose to be the bookkeeper this time. She wants to set up a betting system that will earn her a lot of money. Meanwhile, Dagmire is also setting up his pawns, and one of them is Rand, a bandit who infiltrated as a student at the school. Aside from that, he is also working on his training besides roping in more students towards his side. After most of the preparations are done, they announce the participants, which include a lot of popular names like Aura, Kenshi, and Dagmire, which causes everyone to get hyped up. Aside from the main race, there are also a lot of small events as well. But the main race is what everyone is most excited about, as it's the only race in which Kenshi is participating, which causes everyone to bet on him. This causes Lashara to have a headache, as if Kenshi were to win, her profits would all go down the drain. So she is thinking of doing something, but Mixaya, who has gotten special permission from Lithia, takes him away after putting a chain on his neck. She tells him that he will stay with her till the time of the tournament arrives. The following day, the tournament starts and everyone enjoys the small events. After the small events, it's finally time for the main course. While everyone is getting ready, Kenshi is in the room where he receives a letter from Lashara under disguise, which tells him all sorts of made-up rules regarding the race. At the arena, Kenshi is following those rules when Lithia realizes something is wrong with him, so she reminds him that there are no rules and asks him to run. Even though Lashara keeps on interfering, Kenshi still manages to end up close to Aura. He was thinking of giving up, but Chaya warns him that if he gives up, she will confiscate all of his crystals, which causes Kenshi to go in berserk mode, as even after winning the race, he doesn't stop and keeps on running. He only stops when Chaya tells him to stop, bringing him out of berserk mode, but he falls unconscious from the impact. Aura, who finds him, takes him near a lake and feeds him water using the mouth-to-mouth technique. And when he wakes up, she confesses her feelings to him, but Chaya arrives, ruining the scene. Later at night, Kenshi is doing his usual activities when he is ambushed by the same figure who intruded on the flying island last time. This time, the mysterious intruder has set up a self-destructive trap to dispose of Kenshi, but he is rescued by another masked figure. After the plan fails, the mysterious intruder escapes and the masked figure disappears as well. The following day, the students are going on with their normal lives when suddenly a giant tower floating in the sky starts moving towards them, which causes everyone to stop. The giant floating tower is recognized to be Babel Fortress, which is being maneuvered by Babylon and his subordinates. Meanwhile, Dagmire and the bandits who have taken hold of the control towers manage to destroy most of the defensive systems before the Holy Land can even rebel against them. Unfortunately for him, 2 Seikijin survive, which gives him a bit of trouble, but he has male Seikishis from Kenshi's class who submit to him to take care of that problem. After Lashara and others finally discover what's going on, they immediately decide to protect the holy grounds. Maria informs her mother while Lithia executes the emergency alert so everyone can evacuate. The principal comes into contact with Lashara as it's her empire's forces that are attacking the Holy Land. Lashara assures the principal that she doesn't know anything and that she will try to protect the Holy Land. She immediately orders Kenshi to head out and start helping students in evacuation. She is about to order Chaya as well, but she realizes that Chaya has finally realized that Dagmire is after all of this. This puts Chaya in a difficult position as she is in love with him. But still, Lashara asks her to choose a side that she won't regret taking. Kenshi immediately heads to Wahanli, who has already prepared a 4-legged contraption for him, which he equips and immediately heads out to rescue students. Meanwhile, in the forest, Shurifin Country's base is attacked by the bandits, which includes Ran, but fortunately, Kenshi manages to rescue Aura and even disposes of the bandits. Aura, who was in her shy and submissive mode, finally comes back to normal and is embarrassed that Kenshi saw her like that. At that time, Flora arrives on the scene as well as she activates her cannon systems. Babylon expected this and isn't worried as he keeps on heading towards the center of the Holy Land. Dagmire and his subordinates are also destroying everything in their path when Wahanli comes to stop them. But she is alone and can't do much. Lithia is also out of options, so she immediately activates a hidden switch which opens a hidden compartment with a Seikijin inside it. She wants to equip it, but Dagmire and others keep on targeting her, and just when they are about to get hit by one of the attacks, Kenshi arrives on time and rescues them. Afterwards, he runs towards the Seikijin to equip it, as this is the only way he can stop Dagmire and his team. After equipping the Seikijin, he unleashes havoc upon Dagmire's group, but they are still in huge numbers and quite spread out, so he leads them to the main arena where there are a lot of pillars. He uses the pillars to sneak attack them from all sides and destroys all the Seikijin except Dagmire, who is about to get destroyed at his hand when suddenly the whole Holy Land starts shaking as the Babel Fortress finally reaches the center of Holy Land and activates a mysterious formation which awakens the ancient Seikijin. Aside from that, Mixaya, who was standing in front of it, also becomes completely silent as her eyes lose their shine. Chiaya tries to wake her up, but all she hears is Babylon's laughter, who informs her that Mixaya isn't her sister, but she is just something that her father excavated from the same ruins where the ancient Seikijin came from. Just when he finishes saying it, Mixaya starts to scream as her body morphs into the form of Doll. Kenshin is shocked to see this, but before he can do anything, Doll heads inside ancient Seikijin and equips it. With the immense power of ancient Seikijin, she is easily able to fold Kenshin in the battle. Flora, who has been watching this from the sidelines, activates her trump card, which are huge missile that directly hits the ancient Seikijin, giving time to Kenshi to escape. All the students have been evacuated to the flying island belonging to Lashara and escaped the Holy Land. However, what they don't know is that there is a traitor amongst them hiding. Meanwhile, on the Holy Island, even though Dagmire has fulfilled his mission, he is still not happy. In the Holy Land, Babylon laughs madly as he has finally acquired the Gaia shield, which puts him one step closer to his final goal. Ulite asks him about Kenshi, but Babylon doesn't put him in his eyes and instead asks Ulite to have Dagmire dispose of him. After escaping the Holy Land, the flying island heads towards the nearest docking station to get some repairments. All the students in the flying island are also dropped there, so they can head back to their own countries where they came from. Meanwhile, Wahanli teaches Kenshi about using raw materials to turn them into cannon-sized bullets to attack. She was expecting Kenshi to take some time, but he instantly learns the technique. On the other hand, most of the repairments are completed, so Lashara orders her team to escape this docking station, as they are from the Shitarayu Empire, who are already under suspicion after Babylon took over the Holy Land. Later at night, Kenshi is soundly sleeping when Chiaya enters his tent to assassinate him in his sleep, which she was requested by Dagmire to do after she talked to him through the channel provided by Amura. But she is still not able to do it and leaves his tent where Lashara is waiting for him outside. She asks him why she couldn't do it, to which Chiaya isn't able to answer and leaves. The following morning, Lashara learns that Chiaya escaped with her flying bike. Just when they are thinking of what to do, the mysterious masked woman arrives out of nowhere and introduces herself as Nezai. After giving them some crucial information, she leaves as if she never existed. Using that information, Lashara plans their attack to rescue Chiaya. Meanwhile, Chiaya finally gets to meet with Dagmire, who has fully lost himself, as he tells her that he can't leave his father behind and that now that he has come this far, he needs to see the end of it. Just then, Lashara's crew attacks them. While Wahanli uses the four-legged contraption to distract them, Kenshi beats the lackeys of Dagmire in hand-to-hand combat and takes Chiaya back with him. After leaving her at a safe point, he heads towards his Seikijin, and after equipping it, he destroys the enemy Seikijins and leaves. Meanwhile, at the church, the Pope calls a meeting where they talk about the ongoing state of the Holy Land. They decide to wait till the recruitments arrive from all countries before taking the next step. Back at the flying island, Lashara decides to ask Shurifin Country for help, so they start moving towards it. The church's head pope also learns about Kenshi from Lithia and the principal and hopes that he can stop the Black Seikijin. After arriving at the Shurifin Country, Lashara meets up with the king, who agrees to help, but he wants to race with Kenshi to see whether he is as good as they said. After the race, the king is impressed and even offers to give Aura's hand in marriage to Kenshi. While this is all going on, Dagmire and Doll arrive at the Shurifin Country to get rid of them. Right after entering Shurifin Country's territory, Dagmire and his companions start attacking the city. The king receives the news of the attack and immediately heads back to the city to defend it, so the citizens can evacuate. Kenshi wants to go with him, but Aura holds him back as she tells him that he is a guest here so they can't put him in danger. King Shurifan quickly arrives at the city and starts pushing back Dagmire and his companions. He is giving them a tough time, but Doll arrives with her Seikijin, which is now also equipped with Gaia's shield. Using the shield, she can render most of his attacks useless and even eat some of King Shurifan's Seikijin parts. Kenshi realizes the dire situation and immediately heads to rescue King Shurifan. Doll, who was about to finish off King Shurifan, is intercepted by Kenshi, who pushes her back with a single attack. While Kenshi is locked in a battle against Doll, Dagmire sees this as an opportunity to finish him off, but Kenshi has already expected this attack, so he uses Doll to dodge it, and after creating a gap between them, he escapes as Lashara informs him that all the citizens have evacuated. Dagmire yells at Doll to chase after him, but Doll is already out of juices. Using Gaia's shield takes a lot of toll on normal Seikijin. King Shurifan, who was rescued by Kenshi, finally hands Aura to him and asks him to take her with him. Lashara and others accept her as they prepare to head off, but they learn the news that both the church's headquarters and the capital of Havanoa have been destroyed by Babylon and his forces. The culprits were none other than Dagmire and Doll, who used Gaia's shield and the church's teleporters to quickly get rid of all unnecessary trouble. Lashara decides to visit Havanoa first, and while they are on their way to Havanoa, the church sends a ship towards them to ask for help. However, the ship is intercepted by Kuradine's bandit group, from which only one woman manages to escape. She is saved by Kenshi, who brings her to the flying island, where she wakes up and introduces herself to be Riaya from the church. At first, Kenshi thinks she hates him, but after learning more about her, they quickly hit off together, as Kenshi's mother's name was Riaya too. Soon, the flying island arrives at Havanoa, but they expected the Meteor Fall Fortress to be on their way to the capital, but there was nothing there. They head inside and find that it has already been destroyed. But since this was just a governmental city, so there is a high chance that Maria and Flora are safe. They thought that this would be a peaceful journey as there was no one there, but the enemy had already set traps for her, which forced them into a crater where the entrance was blocked by the Meteor Fall Fortress. The Meteor Fall Fortress drops giant boulders on very destructive targets, so they have no choice but to use Seikijins to wear the pillars, but they are reinforced so they can't damage it. Just then a Seikijin appears out of nowhere and hits the top of the fortress, which deactivates the reinforcement, allowing them to destroy the pillars, which makes the fortress fall. That Seikijin that just helped them turns out to be Yukine, who then takes them to Maria and Flora. There they decide what to do, but before they can make any decision, they want Kenshi to decide under whom he will work. Kenshi isn't able to decide anything, and Lashara also doesn't come out of her room as she realizes that she has nothing left that can hold Kenshi back with her. At night, she is standing outside looking at the moon when Kenshi comes to her and tries to talk to her, but Lashara starts to cry as she tells him that she doesn't want him to go. So Kenshi promises her that he won't go anywhere, as she was the first person who treated him kindly when he came to this world. The following day, he announces to everyone that he doesn't belong to anyone and that he will be declaring independence from the flying island, and he will be the first king. Everyone respects his choice as Kenshi is finally free. With their independence, Kenshi and his team head out towards the field workshop to meet with Chiaya's father, who raised Mixai. While they are on their way, Kenshi uses his powers to turn metal ores into steel balls, which can be used as ammo. Kenshi wants to cry as he finally becomes free, and yet he is still forced to do manual labor. While Kenshi is crying, he receives a report that 4 Seikijin are flying near them. After checking through their scanners, they find that 3 of the unknown Seikijin are chasing after Ceres, who is also piloting his Seikijin. Kenshi wants to head out, but he is stopped as the situation is still not critical after Ceres gets hit on the shoulder. His movement slows down, so Kenshi immediately heads outside to rescue him. He attacks Ceres' pursuers from afar using the railgun, which terrifies them, so they run away. Kenshi immediately grabs Ceres, who is about to fall, and asks him what happened to him. Ceres explains that he was living a happy life with Heizuki, but then he was attacked by Dagmire's people, who took him and Heizuki with them. Saying this, he apologizes to Kenshi and deploys the trap, which locks Kenshi's Seikijin to his own. He then starts an activity self-destructive move which causes Lashara and others to panic, so Aura immediately heads outside to save Kenshi. However, Kenshi stops her as he asks Ceres what did they to Heizuki, to which Ceres replies that they took her hostage and promised him that they would free her if he served his task. This makes Kenshi extremely angry that half of his Seikijin turns black. He uses his black hand to compress the explosive and throws it away. Dagmire and others believe that they had him, but soon they are attacked by Kenshi, who is in a rage mode. He brutally destroys each one of them till it's Dagmire's turn. He is about to crush him, but Amura saves him and takes him away. Meanwhile, Aura and Chaya rescue Heizuki from the building and have her reunited with Ceres. But Kenshi, who was going berserk a second ago, starts melting as his body appears out from the Seikijin. His light side represents his will to save everything. while his dark side wants to destroy everything, but that everything is himself. Later, Kenshi invites Ceres and Heizuki to live with them as they don't have enough people on the flying island. They both accept his invitation as they have nowhere to go. After dealing with this, they finally arrive at the field workshop where they put Riaya into the hospital facility as she is very sick. Meanwhile, Chiaya's father, Na, explains to them the history of Seikijins. A long time ago, all the countries were united. They had too much free time, so they created battle robots which were not made for wars but for entertainment and sports. But soon, they got bored and made second-generation robots that could allow people to pilot them. Moreover, there were also some things called Crystal Core which allowed people to pass down their combat experience to anyone who integrated into them. But this caused people with weaker wills to go crazy, which then caused the mortality rate to go crazy high, which involved the whole world in a war that ended up destroying everything. The most powerful Seikijin, which they now call Ancient Seikijin, was brought into the Sea of Ina, where it fell dormant and disappeared. Many years later, many relics from the past were discovered, so to prevent the tragedy from happening again, an organization called the Church came into existence. It was all going well till 1,000 years ago when the ancient Seikijin was discovered. The Church took over it and decided to keep it safe in the Holy Land. The second big thing that happened was Mixaya, who was discovered as a child in the same ruins. Aside from the ancient Seikijin, there are 3 vessels created by the ancient people, one of which is dead. The second one is Mixaya and the third one is unknown. But after receiving Kenshi's medical reports, Na suspects it to be Kenshi. But before he can tell that to anyone, the field workshop is attacked by Dal and Babylon forces. They have even created replicas of Gaia's shield which makes their defenses impenetrable. While this is all going on, Kenshi is worried about Riaya, who later turns out to be none other than Nizai. She steals something and escapes, so Kenshi can only focus on protecting the field workshop and the flying island. He uses the highly compressed bullets to destroy the Gaia shield replicas of enemy Seikijins, which causes them to panic and escape. Meanwhile, Dal also manages to capture Na, who tells her something that makes her smile. Later, Lashara and everyone are sitting together as they discuss what just happened at the battle in the field workshop. While Chiaya is worried about her father, Lashara is more worried about what Nizai stole. Wahanli answers that it was probably the core exterminator who she might be planning to delete Mixaya's entire existence. But they are still not sure, and rather they should start thinking about a way to fight against Gaia's shield. In the end, they all come to the same conclusion that Kenshi needs to compress a big enough mountain into a sword that can help him destroy the original Gaia shield just like those bullets destroyed the replica. So they are thinking about what mountain is big enough when Yukine suggests a mountain that is in her village. They head to the mountain, which turns out to be Sky-reaching Peak. But it's the sacred mountain of the village, and there is a barrier around it that no one can pass through, but Kenshi is easily able to pass it, which makes the villagers accept his request to take the mountain away. Wahanli suggests Kenshi compress the mountain into a 20-meter sword, so he gets right into doing so. However, this is rather tiring work, so Kenshi needs to make multiple turns, which also makes other Seikishis take turns holding it up, or the weight will cause it to bury into the ground. After working a whole day and night, they are finally close to completing it when they get attacked by Ran and her bandits alongside the remaining Dagmeyer's forces. But Yukine and others hold them back till Kenshi can complete the sword and destroy their entire fleet with a single swing. As the sword is too heavy, Wahanli places an anti-gravity ring around it so it can be placed on the flying island. Later, all the students from the academy arrive at the flying island to help Kenshi fight against Babylon and his forces. Kenshi, who is too tired from doing all that work, falls unconscious from a fever and later wakes up to find Mixaya standing next to him. She tells him that he is also the same as her, a man-made vessel, but he was sent to another world and was sent back here to finish his job. She also tells him that they can't fight against each other as it's written in their program, and gets close to him, only to place him under restriction as she throws a bracelet onto the ground which summons Babylon's projection. He laughs at Kenshi as he tells him that soon he will also be a doll in his hands, but Kenshi's will is extremely strong, so he breaks free of the restriction. This astonishes Babylon, and he decides to just get rid of him as the true ancient Seikijin is going to awaken soon. Mixaya also leaves as Chiaya chases after her, but she is too quick for her. Meanwhile, the whole world is supporting Kenshi as they head to the Holy Land to fight against Babylon in the final fight. After arriving at the Holy Land, all the forces aside from the flying island take care of Babylon's minions, while the flying island heads toward the core to fight against Babylon and Dal. After reaching the front of the Holy Hand, Kenshi and others are about to head in, when they realize that Dagmeyer is standing in front of them with a self-destructive relic. He asks Kenshi to have a one-on-one duel with him, which Kenshi accepts. Dagmeyer, who was always jealous of Kenshi, now finally wants to let go of his hatred and duel him like a true man. Just like everyone expected, Dagmire doesn't stand a chance against Kenshi and is thrown away far into the forest. However, his battle gave enough time for Doll to equip the ancient Seikijin as she came out to stop Kenshi. However, Kenshi isn't so weak anymore as he is equipping the latest version of Seikijin, and with his super condensed sword, he is confident enough to take on ancient Seikijin. They both start trading blows and are equal to each other, but soon Doll falls into a disadvantage, which causes Babylon to take the final step, which is to merge himself with the ancient Seikijin to become the perfect Gaia. With perfect Gaia, Kenshi is pushed back, which causes the world forces to come into the battle as well. However, a few laser beams from Gaia render them useless. Kenshi has no other way but to use his powers, but he is still on the losing side. So Chihaya and others start looking for a way to help him when their eyes fall on the self-destruction relic, which they overcharge to the maximum capacity, and have Kenshi throw it at Gaia after compressing it. However, Gaia's regeneration surpasses their imagination as it immediately recovers back to normal, and just when Gaia is about to launch his counterattack, it is stopped as Mixaya tries to fight back from inside. This allows Kenshi to let go of his compressed sword's external material and use the condensed energy inside to slash apart Gaia. He takes Mixaya out, who is still in her doll form, while Babylon, who seems to be melting, also comes out and is then killed by Ulite, who turns out to be Rai. In the past, she took over his body, and they continued to switch between each other, but now Ulite has completed his final task. He can finally let go, with the threat of Gaia gone from this world. Everyone can relax aside from Kenshi, who is still getting chased by girls who want his children. That's all for today. If you enjoyed our video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.